All right, former Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos answering questions yesterday, finally, about his interactions with key figures in special counsel Robert Mueller's probe and speaking out about what he believes. And he believes he was set up, and so do others. Congressman Mark Meadows opening up after the meeting.
There is even a greater confirmation in my mind that there was inappropriate behavior on behalf of the FBI and DOJ. And I can tell you that he was very insistent that not only was there no collusion, but there was not even the opportunity for collusion based on his contacts.
Former Trump campaign advisor himself in studio. The first interview after that closed-door meeting, George Papadopoulos. George, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for hosting me.
You believe you were set up?
I believe there was tremendous misconduct on the government's behalf regarding my case. And given certain information that I learned yesterday that I can't publicly disclose right now, I'm actually even considering withdrawing my agreement I've come to with the government.
Those were under previous lawyers. You agreed to plead to lying to the FBI and getting 14 days in jail, and you served 1 day, right? So you just said, what makes you think you want to withdraw that?
You know what, to have to serve even 1 day in jail for something that now it seems that was completely orchestrated and I was framed in many ways, it's just something by principle and by precedent, I would never want another American to go through something like I'm going through again. So if I end up deciding to fight this, I would be doing it more so to assure that this precedent doesn't affect a future American who might join a presidential campaign, or anyone for that matter.
So you tell me if I got this right. You are working to help Israel, prior to President Trump running for office, to help Israel do the best they can with this new oil discovery. And you're hooking them up with Greek officials. And you're trying to get a buyer for their oil and be able to extradite their energy. That would have put a red flag up to the Obama administration. They didn't like you doing that.
That's right. I mean, there's this misunderstanding that I was this sort of a Russia insider. I have absolutely no contacts whatsoever in Russia. I've never been to Russia. I have no Russian friends. But I had a lot of contacts in the Middle East, in Israel, and Egypt. And what I really think this is all about is there was some sort of red flag that the Obama administration and possibly his DOJ put on me for my contacts in Israel. If it was politically motivated, I'm not sure. It seems like that now, given certain information I learned recently. But that's really what this is all about.
So George Papadopoulos gets to the attention of Donald Trump, and he adds you to his foreign policy team, an unpaid position where you're going to use some influence and hopefully get a job if he wins.
That's right.
So you decide when David Cameron rips Donald Trump to write an editorial saying it's unfair to do that. And all of a sudden the antennas go up with British intelligence. Am I correct?
Absolutely. As soon as I gave this, it was an interview to the Times of London, I think around May 1st or 2nd of 2016, where essentially I told the UK Prime Minister, look, back off from the candidate that I'm supporting, and you shouldn't be calling him an idiot or whatever he was doing about candidate Trump's proposal for a Muslim ban, which I think many people at the time in the United States were supportive of. And as soon as I gave that interview, that's when my life completely turned upside down. I was being followed in London. I had officials from the U.S. Embassy, which seemingly were intelligence officials, reaching out to me. Alexander Downer wanted to meet. And it was at that meeting with Alexander Downer where he told me, you better stop bothering David Cameron and you better tell Trump to stop bothering him too. And
now,
then, yeah.
Think about this, George. The Australian ambassador, who, by the way, gave millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, is telling you to stop bothering David Cameron. You're an American who happens to be working unpaid for Donald Trump. John Radcliffe is hearing all this in the meeting yesterday and said this.
Justice is a blindfolded lady holding a set of scales. No one's finger is supposed to be on the scales. Fail. Like earlier this year when we saw a ransomware attack which targeted the city of Atlanta and for testimony, I can say, is consistent with a lot of other testimony to the point that neither she or Peter Strzok and the folks at the center of the...
I have no idea what just happened there, but John Radcliffe is one of the people talking to you. So Alexander Downer's talking to you, but prior to that, you were talking to a guy named Mifsud.
That's right. Yeah,
Joseph Mifsud.
Yeah, so let's. I think I need to clarify who this person, Joseph Mifsud, is for the audience.
He reached out to you.
Yeah, Joseph Mifsud was the professor, this Maltese professor, who dropped the information on me about the Russians having Hillary Clinton's emails.
So just prior to that, he reached out to you for what reason? He wanted to talk to you about energy.
Yeah, so no, we meet in Rome, and I never quite understood exactly why I was meeting this person at this university in Rome through my old company, which I now found out is some sort of Western intelligence front group, okay, which I didn't know at the time. So the entire meeting with Joseph Mifsud from beginning to end seems completely orchestrated, and the most important fact is just a couple days ago, this man's lawyer went public and stated, listen, everyone, this narrative about my client, Joseph Mifsud, is completely wrong. He's not a Russian agent targeting Papadopoulos. He was actually working at the behest of the FBI when he was talking with Papadopoulos, when he was interacting with Papadopoulos. Now, unless his lawyer is slandering his client and he's awaiting a massive lawsuit for libel, I'm not sure he's lying.
Joseph Mifsud comes up to you and he says, I hear these Russians have Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yeah.
You listen, say, okay.
Yeah.
The Alexander Downer comes up to you a few days later and said, what do you know about Hillary Clinton's emails?
That's allegedly what happened. I don't remember ever talking to Alexander Downer about emails, but let's assume that's what happened at this meeting. It seems completely suspicious that a week or so after Joseph Mifsud drops this information on me in London, unsolicited, then Alexander Downer apparently wants to figure out info on this particular topic. It just seems that it was some sort of sting operation gone bad, to be quite honest with you.
Word is that Downer taped that conversation. Downer all of a sudden feels motivated in July of 2016 to call the FBI and say, I'm really concerned. I had this conversation with George Papadopoulos. And they say, really? So they start following you and start questioning you. The FBI questions you. And then at what time they say you lied to us.
Yeah, so I didn't actually have my first interview with the FBI until January of 2017, so it makes no sense that if Alexander Downer had this information about me, that I was some sort of Russian conspiracy person, why was I interviewed only in January of 2017 when I met Alexander Downer in May of 2016? It makes absolutely no sense.
So you're wondering, next thing you know, the FBI is talking to you, and you're basically under house arrest. How did that feel?
I mean, it's been very difficult because, you know, my livelihood is basically ruined at this point. All my business was based on traveling abroad and domestically. I have travel restrictions. It's been very difficult on my wife, myself. You know, we've gone through a lot. And, you know, the most beautiful thing, though, out of this entire episode has been the American public support for me and my family, and I'll never forget that.
And how do you feel about President Trump?
I'm a big supporter of President Trump. I think he's doing great things for this country, and I never lost faith in the man.
Did they try to get you to flip on President Trump?
I can't really get into details of exactly what was going on with the FBI, but all I could say is I'm a firm supporter of President Trump and his agenda.
Do you have any Russian connections?
I have absolutely no Russia connections whatsoever, unless you consider a think tank analyst in Russia a connection that I've never met, and only through email, and this Maltese professor who apparently was working with the FBI.
Now under hiding somewhere in Italy. Mysterious. Yeah. So who framed you? I mean, from the best you know, you're not a detective.
Yeah. I mean, as I stated, all my contacts were completely in the Middle East, in Israel in particular, in Europe. I had absolutely no contacts in Russia. Just given that, how on earth could a man like me be at the center of a Russia conspiracy unless I was completely framed by Western intelligence to make it seem that Papadopoulos was interacting with Russians and that he's the patsy that started this whole investigation?
Do you feel like this was a plot to unwind Donald Trump's candidacy and presidency?
I truly believe that it was likely some sort of plot by Western intelligence to assure that if candidate Trump is elected, remember this whole insurance policy, that there would be a precedent or some excuse to really try and squeeze him as he's trying to be squeezed now. And
do you believe that someone had a FISA warrant on you like they did Carter Page?
I don't have real evidence yet about that, but let's just say after my testimony yesterday, I'm starting to believe that more and more and more.
George, somebody who read the transcript of the Downer conversation said, for the life of me, I don't know, I've never met George Papadopoulos, but I don't know why he pled. What do you tell that lawmaker?
Let's just say maybe it was a chaotic moment when I pled, and that's exactly why I have new counsel now, and we're actively looking into new options and possibly withdrawing from this agreement right now.
So, and now it begins your rehab. Will you wanted to testify publicly. Yeah. They thought to get more behind closed doors. What's next for you?
I definitely still want to testify publicly. I want to use this experience as part of my patriotic duty to really give back to this country, to expose corruption, and to assure that nothing like this ever happens again to an American citizen.
and get out of that plea agreement, right?
That's the idea. That's
All right.
the idea.
George Papadopoulos, if they launch the Mueller probe because of your conversation, it is a complete, total sham.
I have to agree with that.
Thanks, George.
Thanks so much,
Appreciate
Brad.
it.